If it weren't for the Rosetta Stone, we could not read the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. It so happened that a relatively late period of Egyptian history, when the Greeks were running Egypt, the Ptolemaic dynasty, that they wrote down a stela in 3 languages. In ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, in the more recent form of ancient Egyptian called hieratic, and in Greek. And that gave them the key. From that, our whole knowledge of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs has arisen.
Isn't it amazing? One stone.
One stone. Gave us access to that wisdom and that ancient world.
For over 2 centuries, the Rosetta Stone has been a global icon, the key that famously unlocked the secrets of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. We thought we knew its story, a simple decree praising a long-dead king. But what if there's more? What if, hidden within its inscriptions, lies another message, one that has remained unseen, unheard, until possibly right now?
The Rosetta Stone is a stela that was probably set up in a temple. The text inscribed on it is a priestly decree that was issued on the 27th of March, 196 BC.
Reports hinting at a breakthrough potentially dated around March 27, 2025, suggest the stone that spoke once might be speaking again, revealing something entirely unexpected after 200 years of study. It's almost impossible to overstate the Rosetta Stone's fame. It's one of the artifacts everyone knows, housed in the British Museum, drawing crowds daily. But its journey began far from London amidst the chaos of war. In July 1799, French soldiers under Napoleon Bonaparte were strengthening fortifications near the town of Rashid, which Europeans called Rosetta, in the Nile Delta. Lieutenant Pierre-François Bouchard spotted a broken slab of dark stone built into an old wall they were demolishing. It wasn't just any building block, it was covered in writing, 3 distinct bands of script. Bouchard, thankfully recognizing its potential importance, saved it. This wasn't a small pebble. The piece we have today is about 112 centimeters tall, 75 wide, and 28 thick. A substantial chunk of granodiorite, a hard, dark grey igneous rock similar to granite. And crucially, it bore inscriptions in 3 scripts. At the top, the captivating, picture-like symbols of Egyptian hieroglyphs, the sacred script used for monumental inscriptions and religious texts. In the middle, a cursive, flowing script known as demotic, the everyday script used by the ancient Egyptians for administrative and private documents during this later period. And at the bottom, ancient Greek, a language scholars could read. Even before it was fully understood, scholars suspected the 3 scripts conveyed the same message. The Greek text confirmed this. It spelled out a decree passed by a council of Egyptian priests assembled in Memphis in 196 BC. The subject? King Ptolemy V Epiphanes. He was one of the Greek-speaking rulers who inherited Egypt after Alexander the Great's conquest. The decree wasn't exactly thrilling narrative, it was essentially ancient political propaganda. It listed the king's good deeds. He'd reduced taxes, released prisoners, gifted money and grain to the temples, suppressed a rebellion, and generally been a benevolent ruler. Also, the priests, likely under royal pressure, wanted everyone to think. In return for his piety and generosity, the decree outlined honors to be bestowed upon him. Statues of the king would be erected in temples across Egypt, special festivals would celebrate his birthday and coronation, and crucially, the decree itself was to be inscribed on stelae of hard stone, in hieroglyphs Demotic and Greek, and set up in temples of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd class alongside the statue of the ever-living king. The Rosetta Stone is one of those copies. Its message was meant to be public, reinforcing the king's legitimacy and divine status to both the Egyptian populace via hieroglyphs and demotic and the Greek administrative class. So, the known message isn't hidden at all, it's about as public as you can get. Now that we've established what the stone is and what its known message proclaims, the question sharpens: how did this trilingual decree become the master key to a lost language? And could such a well-understood text truly hold another secret? The discovery of the Rosetta Stone ignited immense excitement precisely because of those hieroglyphs. By 1799, the ability to read ancient Egyptian scripts had been lost for nearly 1,500 years. The last known datable hieroglyphic inscription dates to 394 AD from the Temple of Philae. After the Roman Empire's influence grew and Christianity spread, the old pagan temples closed and knowledge of the complex writing system faded. For centuries, hieroglyphs were regarded as purely symbolic, mystical pictures holding deep esoteric wisdom, an idea perpetuated by writers like Horapollo in the 5th century AD and later Renaissance scholars like Athanasius Kircher, whose imaginative and entirely wrong translations only deepened the mystery. They looked like magic, not language. The Rosetta Stone, with its parallel Greek text, offered the first real chance for a scientific decipherment. It wasn't instant, though. The stone arrived in Britain in 1802, taken from the French after their defeat in Egypt, and was deposited in the British Museum. Scholars across Europe got to work on plaster casts and transcriptions. Early progress was slow. The Swedish diplomat Johan Åkerblad, building on work by Silvestre de Sassi, correctly identified all the proper names in the demotic text by comparing them to the Greek, and even figured out a few other demotic words, proving it was related to the later Coptic language, the final stage of ancient Egyptian written using the Greek alphabet. But he still believed demotic was purely alphabetic. The real breakthroughs came from two brilliant rivals: the English polymath Thomas Young and the French linguist Jean-François Champollion. Young, a physician and physicist known for work on light and vision, tackled the stone with incredible insight. He focused on the hieroglyphic section, particularly the oval shapes called cartouches, which were correctly guessed to contain royal names. By comparing the hieroglyphs inside the cartouche for Ptolemy, tomes on the Rosetta Stone with those in a cartouche presumed to be Berenice on another inscription, Young correctly identified several phonetic signs. Crucially, he demonstrated that hieroglyphs were not purely symbolic or ideographic. They could represent sounds, at least for foreign names. However, Young couldn't quite shake the old idea that native Egyptian words were written symbolically, limiting his progress. Enter Jean-François Champollion, a prodigious linguist obsessed with Egypt since childhood. He had mastered numerous ancient languages, including Coptic, which he rightly believed was the descendant of ancient Egyptian. Building on Young's work, though he was often reluctant to fully credit him, Champollion acquired copies of inscriptions from Abu Simbel containing cartouches with names not found on the Rosetta Stone. Using the phonetic values Young had suggested for Ptolemy and applying them to a cartouche he suspected contained the name Cleopatra. From an obelisk inscription paired with Greek, he began to unlock more sounds. The real eureka moment came in September 1822. Comparing the signs for Ptolemy, Ptolemies, and Cleopatra, he noticed shared phonetic signs PTOL. He then tested these phonetic values on other cartouches, successfully reading the names of earlier pharaohs like Rameses and Thutmose. This proved hieroglyphs weren't just phonetic for foreign names, the system worked for native Egyptian rulers too. He realized the script was a complex mixture. Some signs were phonetic, representing sounds like letters, others were ideographic, representing whole words or ideas, and some were determinatives, silent signs added at the end of words to indicate their general category, like man, woman, god, city. On September 27, 1822, Champollion announced his discovery in a famous letter to Monsieur Dacier, secretary of the Académie des Inscriptions et Belles-Lettres in Paris. It was revolutionary. Suddenly, the silent stones of Egypt could speak. Temples, tombs, papyri, millennia of history, literature, and religious beliefs were no longer locked away. The Rosetta Stone had served its primary historical purpose. But the story we're exploring today asks, was that all it had to say? Having seen how the first monumental code was cracked, it raises a tantalizing thought. Could the very methods used to decipher, or perhaps newer ones, reveal something missed? So the main message is clear. Ptolemy V is great, thanks for the tax breaks, let's put up some statues. Case closed. For 200 years, largely yes. Egyptologists have meticulously studied the grammar, vocabulary, and historical context of the Memphis Decree. Yet the idea of a hidden message persists, especially in popular imagination. Could there be substance to this, particularly in light of hypothetical new findings around March 2025? Let's explore the plausible avenues moving beyond pure fantasy. One possibility lies in subtle reinterpretations. Language is slippery. Could the priestly language, seemingly fawning over Ptolemy V, contain coded dissatisfaction or subtle political maneuvering? Remember, the Egyptian priesthood was an ancient, powerful institution. The Ptolemies were foreign rulers. While the decree lists Ptolemy crushing a rebellion, likely native Egyptian resistance, perhaps the way certain events are phrased or the specific titles used subtly undermines the royal narrative or hints at priestly agendas. Think of it like diplomatic language today. Praise can sometimes be faint or omissions can speak volumes. Scholars revisiting the text with deeper knowledge of Ptolemaic politics, priestly hierarchies, or even applying computational linguistic analysis to detect unusual patterns in phrasing might argue for such a nuanced reading. This wouldn't be a cipher in the Da Vinci Code sense, but a layer of meaning missed by earlier readings focused purely on the surface translation. A hypothetical 2025 paper might argue, for instance, that the emphasis on certain traditional Egyptian rituals was a way for the priests to assert their continued cultural authority under Greek rule. Then there's the structure itself, secrets hidden in the layout. Could the arrangement of the text, the number of lines in each script, though incomplete, 14 lines of hieroglyphs, 32 of Demotic, 54 of Greek survive? Or the specific grouping of certain hieroglyphs hold a non-linguistic code? Some ancient cultures did embed astronomical or mathematical information within texts or structures. Perhaps the number of times a certain title appears or the geometric relationship between key symbols on the stone corresponds to a calendrical cycle, an astronomical alignment relevant in 1960 BC, or even a mathematical principle. Modern computational tools are adept at finding patterns invisible to the human eye. Could an AI analysis program to look for specific types of numerical or positional relationships have hypothetically uncovered such a pattern in 2025? The major challenge here is the stone's fragmentary nature. We don't have the full inscription, making any pattern detection speculative, but it's not entirely outside the realm of possibility for ancient scribes, especially priests versed in astronomy and mathematics, to embed such layers. What about technology revealing ghosts in the grain? The stone has been studied intensely, but new imaging techniques constantly emerge. Multispectral imaging can reveal details invisible in normal light, potentially showing faded pigments or inks. Reflectance transformation imaging (RTI) captures the surface texture in minute detail, which could highlight faint traces of earlier erased inscriptions, a palimpsest, or even preliminary sketches beneath the final carving. While the British Museum has used 3D scanning and photography, perhaps a hypothetical 2025 project employed a next-generation imaging technology. Could it have revealed that the stone was repurposed? Maybe an earlier decree was polished off, leaving microscopic traces, or perhaps corrections were made during the carving process, offering insight into drafting decisions or alternative phrasings considered hidden beneath the final version. This wouldn't change the 196 BC decree itself, but could add a fascinating hidden history to the object. We should briefly acknowledge the more esoteric interpretations. Historically, many believed hieroglyphs held mystical secrets of alchemy or cosmology. While Champollion's work largely debunked this, for the script itself, the idea of the Rosetta Stone as a mystical key persists. A 2025 discovery could potentially stem from fringe theories claiming symbolic or numerological significance linked to Egyptian spirituality. However, without rigorous methodology and evidence, these remain firmly in the realm of speculation, far from accepted scholarship. Finally, the hidden message might not be on the Rosetta Stone itself, but revealed by a related artifact. Remember, the decree mandated multiple copies. Archaeologists are constantly digging in Egypt. What if, hypothetically in early 2025, another stela bearing the Memphis decree was unearthed? Perhaps one that is more complete, or even a different but related text from the same period that sheds new light on the context, intentions, or reception of the decree. Finding a complete version of the hieroglyphic section, for instance, could confirm or refute structural patterns suspected in the Rosetta fragment. This wouldn't be a decipherment of the Rosetta Stone, but it could fundamentally alter our understanding of its message, revealing nuances currently hidden by its incompleteness. These possibilities range from plausible scholarly refinement to technological revelation to the discovery of new evidence. But how would such a discovery actually surface, especially one dated so specifically? So let's focus on this specific time frame mentioned, March 27th, 2025. If a truly significant hidden message from the Rosetta Stone had just been deciphered around this date, how would we know, and what form might this revelation take? First, we need to acknowledge the information landscape. As of my last update prior to this hypothetical date, there were no major credible reports of such a breakthrough circulating in mainstream Egyptology or archaeology. The bicentenary of Champollion's decipherment in 2022 saw renewed focus on the stone, but celebrations centered on the known story. This makes the premise of a sudden, recent discovery intriguing but demanding of scrutiny. How would real news like this break? A groundbreaking discovery concerning an artifact as famous as the Rosetta Stone wouldn't typically just appear as a viral tweet or a sensationalist blog post, though that might follow. Genuine scholarly breakthroughs usually follow a more established path. We'd expect to see peer-reviewed publication. The researchers involved would likely publish their findings in a reputable academic journal, such as the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology, Zeitschrift für ägyptische Sprache und Altertumskunde, or perhaps a high-impact interdisciplinary journal like Nature or Science if the methodology, e.g. advanced imaging AI analysis, was novel. This process involves rigorous review by other experts in the field, lending credibility to the claims. Museum announcement. Given the stone's location, the British Museum would likely be involved or informed, especially if new analysis was conducted on the object itself. They might issue a press release or hold a conference detailing the findings. Archaeological report. If the discovery stemmed from a related artifact found in Egypt, the announcement might come from the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities or the excavation team, likely accompanied by scholarly publication. So, evaluating the hypothetical March 2025 claim requires asking, where is the evidence? Is there a published paper, a statement from the British Museum, or relevant academic institutions? Without these, claims remain speculative. What could the story behind this date actually be? A genuine, recent finding. It's possible that a study concluded and was published or announced right around that date, proposing one of the scenarios we discussed. Perhaps a subtle linguistic reinterpretation gaining traction results from new imaging or the analysis of a related find. The information might simply be too recent to have been widely disseminated or verified yet. Misinterpretation or exaggeration. Sometimes less dramatic findings get amplified. Perhaps a scholar proposed a minor refinement in translating a single word or published a highly theoretical paper about potential structural patterns, and popular media or online commentators blew it out of proportion, labeling it a hidden message deciphered. Anniversary effect. Could the date be linked to an anniversary, perhaps related to young Champollion or the stone's history, spurring speculative articles or documentaries that get misinterpreted as new discoveries? Pure speculation or hoax. In the digital age, misinformation spreads rapidly. The claim could simply be unfounded, originating from a less credible source. Without concrete details linked to the March 2025 date, we're navigating possibilities. But the framework for verifying such a claim exists. A real breakthrough would leave verifiable traces in the scholarly record. Until those appear, the hidden message remains an intriguing question mark, prompting us to consider how meaning is made and remade from ancient texts. This search for deeper layers in well-known objects isn't unique to the Rosetta Stone. Looking at other decipherments can give us valuable perspective on how ancient codes yield their secrets and whether hidden meanings are the norm or the exception. The Rosetta Stone holds a special place, but it's not the only ancient multilingual inscription nor the only challenging script humanity has deciphered. Looking at similar cases helps contextualize the search for hidden meanings and appreciate the nature of these breakthroughs. Consider the Behistun inscription in Iran, carved high on a cliff face around 520 BC under Darius the Great. It proclaims his legitimacy and victories in 3 languages using cuneiform script: Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian. Much like the Rosetta Stone, it was a monumental piece of royal propaganda, and just like the Rosetta Stone, its multilingual nature was the key to decipherment. Sir Henry Rawlinson, a British Army officer, risked life and limb scaling the cliffs in the 1830s and 40s to copy the texts. He started with Old Persian, which was partly alphabetic and related to known languages. By identifying names like Darius, Xerxes, and Hystaspes, which matched records from Greek historians like Herodotus, he cracked Old Persian cuneiform. This then provided the crucial key, a Rosetta Stone of sorts, to tackle the more complex syllabic and logographic systems of Elamite and Babylonian, opening up the history and literature of Mesopotamia. Was there a hidden message, a Behistun, beyond Darius's boasting? Not in the cryptic sense. The message was overtly political. However, the act of decipherment revealed hidden histories, the details of Darius's rise, the extent of his empire, and the languages spoken within it, knowledge previously lost. Then there's Linear B, this script found on clay tablets primarily from Crete and mainland Greece, dating to the Mycenaean period, roughly 1450 to 1200 BC, baffled scholars for decades. Unlike the Rosetta Stone or Behistun, there was no multilingual key. The breakthrough came from an architect, Michael Ventris, in the early 1950s. He meticulously analyzed the patterns and frequencies of the approximately 87 syllabic signs, based on educated guesses about place names found on tablets from both Crete, Knossos, and the mainland, Pylos, and the hypothesis that the underlying language might be an early form of Greek. Ventris assigned phonetic values to the signs. It worked. The tablets weren't epic poems or mystical texts, but largely administrative records, lists of goods, personnel, livestock, land tenure, the mundane bureaucracy of a palace economy. Was there a hidden message? Again, not a coded secret, but the decipherment itself was revolutionary. It proved the Mycenaeans were Greek speakers, pushing back the history of the Greek language by centuries. It revealed a highly organized, centralized society, fundamentally changing our understanding of Bronze Age Greece before the Dark Age. The hidden message was the nature of the society itself, revealed through its bookkeeping. These examples show a pattern. Decipherments primarily unlock the surface meaning of the text, what the writers intended to communicate, whether it's royal decrees, administrative lists, or historical accounts. The hidden aspect is often the vast context that the decipherment suddenly illuminates: lost languages, forgotten histories, unknown social structures. While subtle layers of meaning or undiscovered physical traces like erased text are always possible, as we discussed with the Rosetta Stone, the grand, intentionally concealed mystical code is rarely, if ever, found in these major decipherments. The real magic lies in hearing these ancient voices speak plainly after millennia of silence. So, with this broader perspective on deciphered codes, how should we approach claims about the Rosetta Stone's secret message, particularly from the viewpoint of those who study it professionally? When sensational claims about famous artifacts like the Rosetta Stone pop up, especially ones involving hidden messages or secret codes, you can almost picture the collective, skeptical eyebrow raise among Egyptologists and archaeologists. Why the caution? It's not necessarily about dismissing possibilities outright, but about maintaining rigorous standards of evidence built over centuries of study. Firstly, the Rosetta Stone is arguably one of the most scrutinized artifacts on Earth. Since its discovery, generations of scholars have pored over every surviving glyph, every grammatical nuance, every historical reference in the Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphic texts. The content, the Memphis Decree, is well attested elsewhere, fitting perfectly within the known context of Ptolemaic royal propaganda and interactions with the powerful Egyptian priesthood. Its purpose seems clear: public reinforcement of royal authority and piety. to suggest a completely different hidden layer woven into this specific known text after 200 years requires overcoming a significant burden of proof. Secondly, history is littered with speculative and often fanciful interpretations of ancient texts, especially hieroglyphs. Before Champollion, scholars proposed wildly inaccurate translations based on mystical or symbolic assumptions. Even today, fringe theories abound, attempting to find everything from prophecies to alien contact hidden in ancient inscriptions. Professional Egyptologists are trained to rely on linguistic evidence, archaeological context, and comparative analysis, not on seeking predetermined secrets. The hidden message narrative often plays better in popular media than in academic journals because it's inherently more exciting than detailed grammatical analysis or discussions of Ptolemaic tax policy. You might even say the idea of a hidden message is more marketable. Perhaps a tiny bit of academic humor there. Scholars prefer footnotes to fanfare. Thirdly, the nature of the potential hidden message matters. As we explored, some possibilities are more plausible within scholarly frameworks than others. A nuanced reinterpretation of political subtext, plausible, requiring strong linguistic and historical arguments. Evidence of erased text found via new imaging, entirely plausible, requiring verifiable technological data. A complex mathematical or astronomical code embedded in the structure. Less likely given the text's straightforward nature and fragmentary state, but potentially testable with rigorous methodology. Claims of esoteric wisdom or prophecies encoded in the glyphs, highly improbable, lacking any precedent in securely deciphered Egyptian texts of this type and echoing discredited historical approaches. Therefore, the scholarly default isn't cynicism, but methodological skepticism. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. A hypothetical March 2025 discovery would need to be presented with transparent data, reproducible methodology, and ideally consensus from peers in the field before being accepted as fact. Until then, the established understanding of the Rosetta Stone as a crucial linguistic key bearing a clear if somewhat dry political decree remains the most evidence-based interpretation. The real wonder isn't a hidden code perhaps, but the code already cracked. The one that gave us back the voices of an entire civilization. The Rosetta Stone. Its name alone evokes mystery and revelation. For over 2 centuries, its greatest gift has been the decipherment of hieroglyphs, unlocking the world of ancient Egypt. Its known message, a priestly decree for Ptolemy V, seems straightforward, a piece of political history carved in stone. Yet, the question lingers, fueled perhaps by the hypothetical buzz around March 2025. Could there be more? Could advanced technology, fresh perspectives, or even related discoveries reveal a subtle subtext, a hidden layer beneath the familiar words or patterns previously unseen?